Welcome back to LCS Academy, and the match we just had underway, that was Team Liquid versus CLG. Quite a roller coaster. It wasn't the expectations we had, and it was definitely a fun match to watch, Coco.
Yeah, it was something where I had some false hope going in with CLG Academy with their early game, but unfortunately the ARAM could not succeed on the Summoner's Rift this time around. Team Liquid Academy was able to macro fairly well, and of course they just have a extremely strong roster in their own right. Jan and Ayla were popping off left and right, positioning and engagements just out of the woodwork there from the bottom side of Team Liquid Academy, while the rest of the team just got to thrive and reap the rewards as they were able to out macro and outplay CLG Academy at every step of the way.
But now that brings us to game number 3 of the day, and that is going to be FlyQuest versus 100 Thieves. And this has a lot at stake as well. I mean, this is 3rd place versus 4th place. These teams are neck and neck with each other.
Yeah, it's kind of a flip of the coin, actually, from what we had started the day with Dignitas versus Immortals, where instead of a 2-4 team versus a 3-3 team, it is now a 4-2 team against a 3-3 team. So it's something where now 100 Thieves is trying to play the anti-hero, drag FlyQuest down to their level, and really force these 4 or 5 situations that I was talking about at the end of Spring Split. So for that to all happen, we have to look at how well FlyQuest has been doing as a team, where Triple has been dominating on these control mages, on the Zeers, and on the Victors respectively. And of course, Tomo in the bottom lane is the other key player I'll be looking at, who has been really making a statement for himself as not only a utility carry, but also a team fighting marksman powerhouse.
I mean, looking at this game that we had last week, the whole FlyQuest versus TSM, that was performances coming out of the entire squad of FlyQuest. So yeah, they have some star-studded power there, Coco.
Yeah, and even this fight that they had with Team Liquid, who has really shown that they struggle with Rift Herald fights, apparently. It's something that NXI has started to come into the driver's seat once again. He's at a point where he can say, hey, I have trust once again in my laners, and I can start making plays, start being more aggressive in the jungle to try and take over the game from the inside out. And it's something where Kumo has really given him that confidence, like I mentioned. And also Dreams, who is now that new installment from the LEC, was that Shulka and Nulfear support, and coming in and really being that veteran voice and a guide in the laning phase to help Tomo gain some extra confidence as well, to really sort of embolden the rest of the team for those identities going into the mid and late game stages.
And of course, NXI, 100 Thieves next jungler before, but on the other side of the rift, we got another 100 Thieves next jungler in the form of Kenvi and the rest of the 100 Thieves squad, since we're talking about them.
Yeah, and this is a very much a sensei versus apprentice situation of Kenvi and NXI, and we'll have to see who is the better in this game, where even though NXI has proven to show some points, Kenvi has been just as oppressive, is just as dominating, and he naturally had that confidence from his laners going into the season. Ryoma dropping down from the LCS team, now on the Academy squad. Tenacity, another 100 Thieves next alumni, as well as Poom who has been just like dominating in his own right, had a very successful 2020 season, and it's all said and done and all great news for them until there is one new addition to the roster at the very last moment, just entering into week 4. We now have Luger in the marksman position, who is now that massive enigma for both 100 Thieves and FlyQuest to answer.
Yeah, the Turkish marksman will be joining 100 Thieves, and he's a former TCL champ. You know, he's always been in the top 4 when it came to the 2020 TCL, and he's a great player. He puts up performances when it comes to his region, but now he's stepping into a different spot. He's stepping into North America, and, you know, we're import city out here. We got so many going on. I mean, even with Ryoma over in the mid lane, the Australian, I have to give a lot of credit to him as well. He came from the OPL. He's been styling in some of these games as well. 76% kill participation. And, you know, Papa Smithy personally chose him as, you know, somewhat of a prospect he wanted to raise up.
Yeah, and I think both Ryoma and Poom respectively sort of suffered from really big high, like sort of just power scaling and power leveling, they sort of got too big for their own shoes, and from that they sort of struggled in those LCS stages. So now back in Academy, where they have a little bit more time to sort of gradually understand both of themselves and what they need to evolve into to become that LCS ready player, this is where I want to see 100 Thieves really take strides. And it's a question of how well Poom will be able to sort of replicate what Dreams has been doing with Tomo and become that guide and become that veteran voice for Luger to have a nice and warm welcome into the Academy split.
And there's going to be a lot to show for 100 Thieves as well, because a lot of these players did come 100 Thieves next. Pume, for example, has pretty much been the journeyman of 100 Thieves. He's been on every single roster from Next Academy, as well as their LCS rosters. So there's a lot to prove for the amateur scene, for these players to be developed and show up when it comes to stages like these.
Yep. And once we get into draft, this is where we start to figure out FlyQuest versus 100 Thieves and how they'll be sort of approaching each other. NXI and Kenvi have extremely deep but familiar pools, so we're going to have a lot of fights over how those jungles are going to be picked up early on in the draft. Kumo and Tenacity, on the other hand, don't really share that much. Kumo is very much a meta pool player, likes the Renekton's, likes the Nars, and Tenacity is much more trying to be that top priority, where he wants to be the Camille's, he wants the Jaces, he wants the Renekton's, yes, but he doesn't prefer it. He wants something a little bit more volatile on the weak side, to where he can really just overwhelm his opponent in those situations of split pushes.
Yeah, and then meanwhile in the mid lane, you talked about a little bit the whole Triple versus Ryoma situation.
Yep.
Different champ pools once again. Ryoma will pull out the Lucian mid on a heartbeat, whereas Triple just loves to go with the control mages and even likes to pull out the TF from time to time.
Yeah, we'll have to see how those two teams approach it, but like already you can give some favoritism over to FlyQuest because of how much more time they've had as a team to sort of mesh together, understand, get that synergy on lock, and it's that question of how well Luger will be able to jump into the mix, because this is a very, very late entry as it is. We talked about how CLG Academy has just been sort of meddling with their roster here and there, and how Pobalt had a couple of games, RJS, and so on and so forth, but this is a completely different animal. He has had very little time skirmishing. If we do get that interview with 100 Thieves, if they come out with the W, that's going to be one of my big questions of how much time has Luger really had to mesh with the rest of the 100 Thieves ecosystem.
Yeah, I'm so curious as to how he's going to develop with that squad, because we know his exit from the TCL wasn't the most pleasant. It was just he got 3-0'd unfortunately and had a hard time even picking up a single kill in that tournament. But that being said, it's still a 3rd or 4th place finish, so there is a lot of potential there, and there's a reason why 100 Thieves would go after this pick.
Of course, and I'll just sort of put some clarification on that 3-0 series. He was not picking the most appealing picks, like Press the Attack Ezreals and Sonas and so on and so forth. So it's something where I feel like he had already checked out of TCL. He had gotten his ticket with 100 Thieves. He was waiting for that to happen. And I hope that doesn't transition here. I hope it's something where he gets back on that competitive grind. He understands what he needs to do to really apply to this team as effectively as possible. And he can really be just a nice plug-and-play player. Like, as much as NA loves the imports, as you mentioned, it's one of those situations where we expect them to be as plug-and-play as possible, where we can just take Impact or Huni and just slap them into a team and just have success instantaneously for that short-term consequence, where with these amateur and with these academy squads picking up these imports, it's a little bit of a different story. They're a little bit more long-term invested, trying to develop them as a whole, with the support team really investing on building up that player as much as possible.
Yeah, and the investment makes me so happy to see. I mean, we both come from the amateur background, Coco, and we've seen a lot of these players just grind and grind and grind through the amateur scene, and now we're starting to see him shine through. How many times have I casted Kenvi, NXI, and Triple over in whatever amateur brand I happen to be casting in at the time? It's very touching to see them come through, to see them develop, and to see what they can bring to the table in this matchup today.
Of course, and with that, I think we're going to be jumping into Champ Select fairly shortly, but as just sort of a piece of information, or at least a point that we need to carry into this, is just focusing on the team identities. This is very much going to be how they work together as a unit, not like Dig Academy where it is about the individuals themselves. The only individual we'll be looking at really is how Luger meshes into the team, but that focuses into how that unity and that cohesion works as the 100 Thieves squad. They're all 100 Thieves Next alumni, Tenacity, Kenvi, and Poom. How well can they work that into the system?
So the bans coming in so far, support pool will be focused from 100 Thieves to go to the Thresh and the Rel, and Twisted Fate going to get banned away. Not going to allow that to go through, even though, you know, it is something you tend to see more often than not on Triple than anything else. Udyr, of course, banned away. We're going to see that every single game today. It's no surprise.
Yeah, and the TF, like you mentioned, the Gragas also taken away from Kumo and Tenacity. That's one of the champions that they do actually share in their own meta pools as it is. And of course, Dreams and Poom also love to play it as well. That is something that still thrives in 11.3. But with all these bans thrown out, the jungle and ADC situation is still fairly open. You just saw the Kai'Sa get locked in. Aphelios is available, but so is the Xayah. So this is where FlyQuest can sort of pick their poison with their 1-2 stagger, and then 100 Thieves will have to answer accordingly. For me, I'd want FlyQuest to grab their jungle early, get that early priority, whether it be the Nidalee that we've been seeing thrive today, whether it be the Olaf as well, which has also shown some good success as well. That's something that I want FlyQuest Academy to pick up, as Azir is their blind pick in the first stage, and then the Xayah.
Yeah, the Xayah to follow up, but taking a look at that Kai'Sa, that's going to be the first champion played by Luger for Academy, and an exciting champion to see come in over on the opposite side of the risk with 100 Thieves as they figure out their next picks.
Yeah. Just to touch on how the Xayah and Kai'Sa will interact, fairly neutral for the laning phase. We'll be looking at how those supports interact with one another, and that is what is going to be sort of around the 4th and 5th pick for both of these teams. Ryoma decides, you know what, I've got the Syndra pick, you picked Azir, blind pick already, so I can at least fight fire with fire this time around. We're not getting the Azir Corki matchup, thankfully, so we still have some volatility going into that mid lane, and with Kenvi locking in Graves, he has the capability to not only power farm against NXI, it takes away that power farmer from him and gives Hecarim, the more team fighting focused champion, over to the hands of FlyQuest Academy, which already has a great recipe for success with both the Xayah, Azir, and Hecarim all clumped together.
Yeah, and looking back to 100 Thieves, they picking up that Graves you were just talking about. It is one of Kenvi's like favorite picks to grab. He does like aggressive picks like that. And the last time he played against TSM Academy to come out with a 9-2-8 record. So he has a lot of carry potential when he's put on junglers like that as we head into the second phase of the draft.
Looking at tops and supports being banned away from a FlyQuest Academy. 100 Thieves taking away that Rakan. Jace was thrown away from Tenacity. We still have some carries available for both of them respectively. Alistair is on the table. Might get that banned out from Poom. And also the Leona and Rel are still, not Rel, Leona. I keep mixing up all these supports. They're all engaged supports, man. It busts me up. But nonetheless, Aurelia, also one of those power pick split pushers that has sort of been underlying through the scrims and formulaic draft scenarios for both these teams.
So really choking out that champion pool. Not going to leave too much available. I mean, Dream does play Braum, so that is the thing. I believe that's all that's left that's heavily in Kume's pool is Alistair.
Yeah, like Alistair's, like I think you pick Alistair here just to deny it away from Poom, like, and it takes away from the Kai'Sa as well. It works fine with Tomo's Xayah. It's not too much of an issue. You could also do a set flex here. Set flex would be all right, just to have that as support and a top lane situation. But either of those would be great. Great stagger there, and stealing that away from 100 Thieves Academy, who now has to blind pick their top laner. Renekton is still on the board, so you can still have that Croc in the top lane and have at least some equivalence to the situation. But closing that out, you have to think of what other supports are left here. Like you mentioned, Rel's gone, Thresh is gone. Braum is like the only thing left that Dreams would have grabbed. But for Poom, you've got Leona, maybe that could really just be that final success story to end off the composition of 100 Thieves.
Or not. It's a hover pick. What am I doing?
What are you
doing?
doing?
Leave that there. I don't know. Other things I could think of that Poom plays, it really slips my mind because he is an engager. He likes to go hard. And if you want to go hard, Set is an engager, and that does go hard. So 100 Thieves can round it out with Set.
I like the Set pickup. I feel like he's been underappreciated just because of how oppressive Galio support has been in the recent metas. But Aatrox being that final lock-in for Kumo, that's that priority of Kumo versus Tenacity that we'll be setting our eyes on once we get to sort of the level 6 stage. And you could argue level 3 could be pretty volatile for both Aatrox and Renekton respectively. And with how Kenvi and NXI path, that's going to be the other big question for them to answer. But overall, both of these drafts looking fairly good for both FlyQuest and 100 Thieves. You got some great team fighting situations for both. You got good wave clear, objective priority. The only question is how well that early game will be going for either 100 Thieves or FlyQuest, because that has still been a very big determining factor for these games today on the success story going into that mid-game performance.
And both of these junglers have been performing incredibly well. NXI throughout the season so far, 7.63 KDA. You go look at Kenvi, a KDA of 5.43. They are both active and phenomenal junglers. And I feel like this whole early game, even the mid game, heavily lies on them as we start to head to the Rift.
We'll have to keep an eye on the junglers today. They will be the determiners of fate, or the prophets of fate, or oracles, whichever words you like. I'm not a thesaurus. You have that on Google, I suppose. But so do I. Hey, I'll look that up. Maybe what if we just call NXI Neo from here on out? What if he is literally going to just break the game and just like giant crevice in the middle? Like, I remember there were some games that if you casted enough spells on them, it would actually manipulate how the map actually played out. Like, there'd be cracks popping through and there'd like magic be seeping out of the walls, and just, if we get that kind of game, that'd be nuts. But I don't think we're ready for a 40-minute banger just yet.
No, not just yet, especially when the stakes are this high. I expect both teams to be rather on the safe side. Again, this is third place versus fourth place. This is trying to lock in that playoff seeding. So it should be a game of rather, just early macro in the early game, and then just try and set up for those skirmishes as we head towards the mid game.
For sure. And again, keep that eye on Luger. Like, it's nice that he got Kai'Sa with Set. That's a great scenario to have. They're going for this late invade as well, just to see if they can force a more favorable jungle pathing for themselves to try and prioritize this bottom side. It does mean Tenacity is going to be playing that weak side, which he's still extremely efficient at. He's a player that loves to be left on his own, does understand sort of the back and forths of the top lane that need to be sort of addressed in that situation, because with NXI now sort of being forced onto the top quadrants of the Rift, he can have that capability to just pressure Tenacity to his turret and have Kumo really start to thrive. But with the Hecarim pickup, it's not as successful. It's not the Renekton Nidalee that we've seen. It's not a Talia that can help create with lockdowns and have success with dives, nor do they have a mid laner to worry about when it does hit level 6, and they have a third man to sort of enter the fray with those roams.
Now, the ward placed on the blue buff, just to keep a very close eye to see if NXI will go towards that quadrant and try and collect something that Kenvi has stolen away from him, but not willing to take the risk. And I don't blame him when you're on the Hecarim, especially when someone in the top lane like Renekton has a heavy hold on that priority.
Well, and just because of how fast Graves does clear as well, the fact that he did skip the wolves, decided to go straight for his red buff on the other side, he will be able to triple buff NXI now that we see that he is pathing to the bottom quadrant here. An unfortunate, sad centaur as it is for Hecarim, but at that stage, he could look for just grabbing the scuttle and then seeing if he can try and push away Luger and Poom from oppressing Tomo and Dreams on this bottom side of the map. Outside of that, just go for a quick reset and possibly catch Kenvi, who might get a little greedy with his farming.
Meanwhile, Poom walking out, looking for a roam over towards the mid lane. NXI will show up, so it could be a little bit of a pincer here, but they have no idea that Poom's in the area, and Poom's just going to head over towards the Scuttle Crab, be sort of a menace to try and mess with NXI, at least get vision of where he is and spot out his pathing.
Well, that's great call from Poom. Just being able to get that roam, no need to recall for anything whatsoever, and with just a cheater recall from Luger to get that longsword, it helps them with that constant oppression of what they need. This means that they will be prioritizing this bottom side of the map a little bit heavier because of just getting the dragons, making sure that they can constantly have that early scaling online for themselves. And this is a great start for 100 Thieves, because this is what we wanted to see out of both Luger and the rest of the squad, is this understanding and working as a team, saying, look, I'm going to roam, I'm going to get some pressure for Ryoma, I'm going to see if I can track NXI here for Poom. And Luger says, I understand that, let's go ahead, I'm going to reset, I'm going to do my cheater recall, I'm going to grab some extra pressure, so whenever Tomo and Dreams tries to fight us, I'll be able to stat check him with just that extra bit of attack damage on my side.
Getting that item advantage over in the mid lane. Meanwhile, Triple and Roma still, it's a volatile matchup. You're waiting for the moment Ryoma does hit 6, able to get one item, grab his mythic, and then just start outskilling the hell out of Triple. But you do have quite a bit of time before you get to that spot, and at this point, you're just waiting for either jungler intervention or for a push and shove and Roma out to a different lane.
The other thing that has just sort of been interesting through how the hatches have been shifting throughout Academy and how sort of ADCs and marksmen have been changing on their own is that we've had a lot more positional focused and very utility ADCs. Kai'Sa's been throwing out the mix, but I'm going to hold that point as we do have a fight on the bottom side.
And right after Tomo, Dream will burn his flash to try and stop Kenvi, but he's taking too much damage on the back end of this fight. Survives with a slither of health. Dream is just barely able to get away.
Well done, Tomo, saving Dreams by just the skin of his teeth there, but because of that fight, they just need to figure out where NXI is, but Kenvi being a little greedy here, going with half health towards this Cloud Drake. It attacks real fast, so you're gonna have to make sure Poom and Luger are there to just be a bouncer and just be that wall of defense in case NXI comes looking.
Do the early smite just to get the extra health and make sure that Cloud Drake is not going to take him down, and then start to take those recalls. A lot of early map control is going over to 100 Thieves. You see it over on the top side with the Vision Wars. You see it in the bot side with the Priority and the Dragon. It's a great start to the game, even with 0 kills on the table.
You with that, like the fact that you can win that tempo, win that momentum here from 100 Thieves without really getting a kill. Yes, they were fairly close to snagging Dreams for themselves for a first blood, but at that moment, you can also say, hey, we know that they have no summoners available this time around. We still have the Hex Flash for Poom and the heal for Luger. Let's see if we can rinse and repeat that. However, you do have Herald spawning in the next 2 minutes. This is where they can go out, they can hard shove the wave, get some extra gold into their pockets, and then create a freeze as well, where Luger can just play safely underneath his turret, continue to slowly farm up, and I'll sort of like demand Tomo to be there and answer him as well, while Poom goes and sets up that Herald for Kenvi and gets the ball rolling to set up that objective to help open up this map and continue to grab those early objectives.
And it's been such a joy to watch Poom in this early game. He's been so active. Even though he's not getting too much, he is roaming around, he's getting vision, and he knows when to hold him and when to fold him. He's been a great support, and Luger's really bouncing off him well.
Are you telling me Poom might be a good Texas Hold'em player?
He just might be.
I'll have to ask him that maybe later.
Yeah,
but
why is he playing League when he can get League?
We're still trying to figure out. Wait, I have fantasy LCS for that. That's my segue. But we will have to figure out how well he'll be able to address that Rift Herald, as I mentioned. Like, it will be spawning in the next 40 seconds, and he already hasn't made that rotation because Tomo and Dreams have forced this push. Kenvi is also on the bottom side of the map, so they could try and challenge and see if they could get this kill. Like I mentioned, there's no summoners available for Tomo and Dreams, and Ryoma knows that as well, as he sort of pushes away NXI, calls out, hey, jungler's down here, maybe not the best attack to do so. Let's go ahead and do that strategy instead of getting Poom available for this Herald, create that freeze that Luger was talking about. There you go, just sitting right on top of that, and then make sure you can get that mid lane priority so you can then address all of those resources to the top end and take that Herald.
So no, crashing another wave will be Tenacity, and you can see Ryoma heading towards that top side as well. Possibly setting up over towards Umo, and there it is. The Dominus going to be used. Stun comes out, Scatter the Weak, and it is all too easy. First blood picked up by Ryoma.
Great rotation, got that mid priority, looked for that top pressure as well, and they're able to relieve it accordingly. Poom now back to answer the Tome and Dreams pressure. But with that, Kenvi is also in the vicinity. He's been hovering around this plot for a very long time. Let's see if they can get something.
Here comes the knockup, here comes the damage. Haymaker goes out, so does the Feather Storm. Jumping in, this might get turned around. Luger just barely able to take down Tomo in time, but he only has about 150 health. He is not long for this world, wants to get one more kill, finds the double. Kumo will not get there in time. It's going to be a trade over to support, as showing up to the fight will be NXI and Kumo, but that will stop it. 1-for-2 exchange in favor of 100 Thieves.
Luger, you sly dog, able to go ahead and get the kill onto both Tomo and Dreams, and then executes himself to make sure Dreams got the kill, and no key members of FlyQuest Academy were able to pick that one up. He is impressing me in leaps and bounds, Deserex. This is his debut, and he is already showing that he knows how to work with the team, he understands his limits, and when to take the fights.
Yeah, A great pick to grab up. He's doing work. He's developing, and he can only get better from here. You know, with time, more time on the squad, who knows where he can end up. But where he is right now is 2-1-0, only feeding over that kill to Dreams, and off to a great start in the spot lane.
So from here, nice. With that kill, it's a nice little signal to just sort of reset. And it does reiterate again that Rift Herald priority that I've been sort of constantly pushing onto us as they finally 100 Thieves get to that stage. They do need to clear out some vision, and Poom also needs to win some of that top priority to sort of keep track of NXI and make sure that they have that mid pressure as well. Tomo and Dreams, though, understand what they need to do. They did lose that bottom side. They say, okay, let's go ahead and rotate to see if we can try and challenge this, or get to a place where we just force Tenacity underneath his turret, and we give Kumo a lane of luxury to just slowly farm up in this bottom side of the map. With that change up, with these Australian lanes being rotated, they don't have the capability to challenge this Herald, but at least to sort of keep the farming stabilized where they don't fall behind individually.
Kumo headed over towards that bot side, and now you have Tomo in the top side. I'm gonna be honest, I mixed them up a few times. I thought it was like Como and
Tomo and Dreams.
Tumo.
Oh. They'd be pretty mixy names, but I know Tomo because it's a sushi restaurant that he named after in New York. So yeah, that's how I know it. I remember it from casting him last season in Academy, where he was a substitute for C9 while King was having those visa issues, where he was very much a utility carry. Like Cloud9 knew that, hey, you're here because our actual ADC isn't here just yet. So we're going to have you be utility. We're going to focus sort of developing our top side of the map a little bit more. And that's where Tomo sort of understood how to really sort of mesh into a team and synergize almost instantaneously to how a team wants to sort of attack the Rift. And from here, now back onto a team that he actually can sort of develop through, Tomo can say, all right, now I can start picking more powerful carries. I can pick team fights. I can play the way that I am used to and familiar to playing. However, this new change-up with Luger now coming into the mix is a daunting challenge for him to face.
It definitely is. As they head over towards this bot side, I thought they were trying to get the engage there, but unable to find the engagement onto Tomo. Dreams will make it in time. And yeah, Tomo trying to really show that he's not just a utility ADC anymore, but Luger is here, and that is the contender he has to deal with. And so far, it's not been looking too pretty. When you start looking at the CS numbers, it's been Luger who's been able to find those advantages, but that's what comes with a single death in the bot side.
Of course, right? And just how well Poom has been sort of just managing this bottom side of the map. Puma did just try and go in there, but unfortunately we did snap away to sort of see Triple pushing in to get this mid priority back for FlyQuest. And thankfully for us, Poom did not find anything of the sort for themselves on the bottom side. So from here, it's just a little bit of a calm situation. Sure, it's a 2,000 gold deficit for FlyQuest that they need to recover, but 100 Thieves making sure that that ain't happening.
Ryoma going straight after Triple and wasting a lot of that time. It feels really bad, and that feels even worse as Tomo is pushed in. Here comes the showstopper. Oh, no. Tries to find it onto the Alistair, but the Alistair shoves him right back under the tower. Luger getting that priority, headed straight towards Tomo, and will take him down. Dream underneath his tower. His ADC goes down, and Luger scores kill number 3 of the game.
And with Poom just trying to bite off more than he could chew, Luger was able to recover it so well, but we're not done yet.
Oh, we are not, but Kumo certainly is as he falls to the top side off a 3-man dive. Rift Herald goes up. It's going to ensure that first brick will go over to 100 Thieves and Tenacity.
Yeah, and we'll have to see sort of how that top lane came into fruition and how Kumo got into this weird situation between his tier 1 and tier 2 turrets. But with that, like you said, first brick going over to the side of 100 Thieves, all 5 plates being dumped right onto the croc of Tenacity. And just sort of to reiterate, just sort of take a step back and rewind. Say, hey, the fight with Poom, trying to bite off more than you can chew, Luger had some really good positioning, was able to sort of stand himself between Tomo and Dreams to where Tomo could not just try and step in and try and take that kill onto Poom. And with that target acquisition, just constantly juggled the damage output back and forth. And FlyQuest just being absolutely corralled and wrangled up by the members of 100 Thieves. And they're continuing to throw the pressure in both top and... Oh my goodness, Poom, you are just putting salt in the wound today.
Oh, poor Triple. His mana bar is already low as well, but here comes the engagement from Dream. He wants to back off, though. He's not feeling confident taking that, and we're going to take another look at this bot lane play.
So this is where he tries to bite off more than he can chew with just how much damage Dreams is able to sustain with the Alistair Unbreakable, and the fact that he took 2-3 turret shots, but it's all Luger. That fact that he was able to space out, keep himself between Poom and Danger, and able to obliterate Tomo as well with the Instinct. And then this is that top side where they were looking to force for the dive. Kumo knew he was not in a safe space, and Ryoma already deciding, I've got this mid priority, I'm gonna push for it, I'm gonna punish, and all of the win conditions that 100 Thieves has set up in the draft has been going splendidly for them as we jump into a fight.
Nice Shurima shuffle to come out to catch out Ryoma, and that will be a shutdown going into the pocket of NXI, and that is something you can't underestimate there. The Azir on triple, especially triple, can be devastating.
And it's still something that has yet to become online, with only just that single assist to the Shurima shuffle, as you mentioned, finally being able to pick up a second kill for them. And 100 Thieves, they're getting a little bit greedy and overzealous here.
Getting very, very greedy. Onslaught of Shadows will not land.
Okay.
And somehow Tenacity gets out alive. That is surprising to me.
Yeah, very well played, being able to get away from the Onslaught of Shadows with the flash just by the skin of his teeth. And NXI not able to pick up the kill against his former 100 Thieves next teammate. With that, now we have Dragon spawning in the next 40 seconds. Herald will also be spawning fairly shortly, and now it's up for both 100 Thieves and FlyQuest to find which one of these neutral objectives they need to prioritize. Well, we looked at a little bit of a replay. This is just how well Triple is to just read a situation and just address accordingly on this Azir.
Oh, it was some beautiful play right there. And you're not expecting it either when you get that close, especially when you're a Syndra. You're not expecting the person you just stunned to say, hey, never mind, I'm going in, catches the Shurima shuffle, and gets the kill on Ryoma.
Yeah, it was sort of Ryoma saying, you will die on this hill, and Triple said, bet, and just took him out instead. But with that, they decided to prioritize the Dragon instead. This gives a little bit of a breath of fresh air for FlyQuest to take this Herald, but it might be at the cost of Kumo.
The RKO comes in, he's going after Kumo, and the whole party showing up. 100 Thieves over the top side, bullying Kumo straight back to the respawn, and that's going to set them up for a very, very lonely Drake take.
Yeah, but with that, that will be sole point for 100 Thieves with this third Dragon going to themselves. Rift Herald, like I mentioned, FlyQuest is just trying to take the acceptable losses and grab the Rift Herald for themselves. This might be able to open up, the map a little bit more for them, right? Because we have Triple taking care of that top side. You grab the Herald, see if you can crack open the mid lane turret for a little bit. And sure, you do lose that soul point, as I mentioned, but could you use those tools in tandem to try and swing some tempo back into your side of the court? It's going to be a very steep hill for them to climb, though, because of how quickly Poom is just rotating around the map, finding these kills, keeping the vision blotted out from FlyQuest, and constantly finding pick after pick.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a daunting task. And it's a daunting task when you have as much damage as Luger's bringing to the table. 3-1-1, and that's not to just look at that. He got solo turret gold over on the bot side, taking down that tier 2, so he is starting to rack in the money bags.
Let's see how much that gold discrepancy is between both Luger and Tomo, because currently you're sitting at around a 3k difference between 100 Thieves and FlyQuest, 100 Thieves in that 3,000 gold advantage. And if a lot of that is dumped onto that bottom side, which you look at the scoreline and you say, yeah, it definitely is. You have 2,000 gold almost in favor of Luger alone against Tomo. He's able to cash in for his collector fairly shortly. I think he only has his serrated dirk and the pickaxe ready to go. He cashes in with that collector. That next fight is going to be absolute brutal for FlyQuest to try and answer.
It's one of my favorite situations where the Kaisa gets so far ahead that she becomes the assassin and is picking on everyone. It's no longer ADC means I've had enough.
Yeah. And that's sort of the mention of sort of how these burst assassins and these team fight marksmen have just been in the fore for a lot of the meta currently for this spring split, and you've been seeing the slow mesh back to utilities with like the farming fasting Sennas, the Zayas, who are very slow to scale but become efficient team fighters. And we're gonna, speaking of team fights, we're gonna have to try and see if FlyQuest gets out alive.
Ooh, a nice scatter of the week, finds double stun Tenacity, looks to jump in, but the Feather Storm goes out, dissuading any more advancements coming out from 100 Thieves. Gonna go neutrals, 100 Thieves set up towards the mid lane.
To break this one open, making sure that you do not get a chance to breathe here for FlyQuest, as they do have the Rift Herald in NXI's pocket, but he is not able to use it just yet, and a great flank from Ryoma.
Over the wall, you know the Featherstorm's not there. Grabbing the kill onto the ADC. Showstopper goes out. Triple tries to get away. Answer's gonna be no. Poom takes him down. And now he's got out Beefy Boys chasing him down. The horse and the cow will be able to pulverize on the Poom. But it's a support going down. You lost your ADC. You lost your mid laner. 100 Thieves coming out victorious.
Now that's an absolute win there for 100 Thieves, and they still have mid and top pressured. Ryoma can just walk straight back to top side, deal some damage onto the turret, but with now NXI and Kumo just answering this mid lane together, it pushes Luger away from this mid lane turret, so they won't be able to crack open the defenses just yet for 100 Thieves to really advance into the jungle of FlyQuest. And it's just such a great flank from Ryoma, and how well everyone is working together. Just watch Ryoma on the top side of your screen here. He finds this wonderful flash, has the ball all ready to go, everyone lines up, and it's just, you roll it in. It's like bowling. You just get a strike, and everyone falls at the wayside.
A beautiful play, a beautiful flank, and the damage is there. Even Poom able to grab a kill of his own, which is not even the biggest waste when you're on something like a set. I mean, you gave something back, but look who it's to. It's Dreams. It's not going over to NXI.
Yeah, and the fact that Dreams is constantly being the one getting these kills, he's 2 out of the 3, it sort of reciprocates back to what I was talking about with CLG, where they're getting kills onto the wrong players, and because of that, the gold deficiency just becomes worse and worse, because the gold's on the wrong person. Yeah, great, Dreams is a little bit tankier. He doesn't have his mythic yet. Poom already has his Dead Man's Plate. He doesn't need to go for a mythic just yet. And by goodness, 100 Thieves, they might be able to just stop this Shelly outright and deny this turret from being broken open.
Yeah, already trying to clear the wave. Give something for Shelly to stop on while they wail away on it. One more minion remains. Yes, they will be able to claim Shelly, and that is a wasted Rift Herald for FlyQuest. They're just gonna walk away with their tail between their legs.
Yeah, true tragedy indeed, but nonetheless, FlyQuest now has to address some vision control back into this bottom side of the map and at least have one ward always on Baron, because you look at this team for 100 Thieves, they have the capability to challenge this Baron at 21 minutes, but Dragon Soul is up in 30 seconds here, and they need to make sure they can at least try and fight for this. As a Hail Mary as a play as it's going to be for FlyQuest, they have to fight, because they're just rolling over and almost dying at this point because of how well 100 Thieves has just been able to flip them over.
And with the tools in the kit, there is some hope for them to come out victorious in a team fight. It's just got to be utilized well, and you can't get chipped away like that. Ooh. Dreams falling to about 500 health, and this will give 100 Thieves priority over this Drake area, but it's going to be FlyQuest responding. They don't want to go out just yet. Battle lines are drawn. We go standing toe to toe. They're going to go straight for the flank of Pume, but Pume will find the showstopper back in. Out comes the Emperor's Divide. Luger onto the back line, but Kumo will find Poom, and now 100 Thieves are starting to melt. Triple goals golden. Out comes the Scout of the Week into the Unleashed power, but it's not going to be able to find a kill as Kumo will fall at the hands of Tenacity. Health bars blinking low, especially for NXI. When your jungler's that low, it's a high risk to get close to this Drake, but still NXI will find it. And FlyQuest, they find a footing somehow, some way back into this game.
And Puma was so far out from the rest of his team that he needed to make a play before he was immediately punished by the rest of FlyQuest. And because of that, Triple got the perfect position to stand behind an Infernal Wall and push all of the members of 100 Thieves away from the back line. Great Featherstorm as well from Tomo, but this is what we're talking about. You cannot disrespect Triple's Azir. He's able to disengage and create that space for the rest of his team to deal damage, and because Luger was the only one that was able to get past that wall of soldiers, everyone else fell to the wayside. 100 Thieves fell to the hands of Kumo's Aatrox, and with that, they're able to hold on to this soul point. They grab a dragon for themselves, and they might just have a grasp back into this game.
I mean, the tools of the kit are there. You use them right, and you just might win a team fight, even if you are behind the Shurima Shuffle. Emperor's Divide, excuse me.
Yep. Yeah, it doesn't take an IKEA instruction manual to tell you how many tools you can use to create the space for FlyQuest Academy with Triple. And with this, now 100 Thieves is at a position where you do not want to get your brain scrambled. You want to keep your head down and say, okay, you know what? We messed up that play. We can look for another setup. Poom has still been dominating with this constant oppression and vision control that he's been able to dish out. Keep your head in the game, keep it down low, and look for that next play. Baron is still on the table. You can look for the bait, you can look for the plays around that objective, and force FlyQuest to walk into that darkness and into that unknown that 100 Thieves has been able to flank around and look for those picks.
So state of the game, 24 minutes in. Still being led by 100 Thieves. They have about a 3k gold lead, which has been slowly shrinking thanks to that last team fight. FlyQuest now holding the line, being able to hold 100 Thieves' momentum back after all the early game shenanigans that have been going on, even stopping that Dragon Soul from coming to fruition. And it's hope, it's some life left in them, and if they continue this, maybe they can start finding win conditions for their own. Sure,
right? Because it's something where they do have the tools to re-engage. They have the tools to take that proactive play with the Onslaught of Shadows, excuse me, and of course with Dreams' Alistair. They have the potential to engage and create the fight and the moment for them. It's a question of will they be able to have that time, because they have to swing some tempo back in. Right now, they have that control. They have the vision priority around Baron. They have the wave management on lock. They have Tomo up on that top side answering Ryoma's push, and then Kumo on that bottom side. Again, they also have the TPs available, but so does 100 Thieves. So at this stage, you need to be playing around Triple as much as possible. Make sure that his flanks are warded, because if this Emperor falls, the entire Empire goes with it.
A teleport over towards the top side. Triple doesn't want to deal with anything down there. Ooh. He will go for the Shurima Shuffle, and the Emperor might experience Regicide in just a moment as Tenacity goes forward. Tries to find the stun, but he gets interrupted by Kumo, and now he's bitten off way more than he can chew. Needs to find some type of dive towards these carries, but has no cooldowns left. Now Kumo is tearing apart the backline of 100 Thieves Academy. Now 100 Thieves have no choice but to make a full retreat from the power that is FlyQuest.
I was a little worried there, to be honest, for Triple. He had jumped in, wasn't able to get that Shurima Shuffle on Ryoma, but we're not done yet. Hold on.
Not done at all. Dreams is going to go down on the re-engage. Kenvi will be able to bring some damage in and find the collateral damage onto Tomo. Poom will be able to escape, gets out of the grasp of Triple, but Kenvi, same might not be able to set for him. It's very hard to get a sticky Aatrox off of you, and Triple will be able to clean up the kill on the jungle.
And with that, now that is a dominating stance and a defining position for FlyQuest to rally behind, with Triple being able to get out alive during all of this fighting. And with this, they can finally have that rally point, as I mentioned, to get this tempo really into their side of the court, getting back into the driver's seat. Dragon will be up in 40 seconds. If there is a play for them to really swing this game back into their favor, this Dragon will be the time.
FlyQuest, they're holding on and they're gaining momentum. Now the gold lead is only 2k, shrinking bit by bit with every fight that goes through. Triple has been absolutely phenomenal. Kumo as well in these team fights. Kumo just tearing up the front line, tearing up the back line, and it's so hard to be able to get away from him. FlyQuest are utilizing these resources beautifully as they set up for this next Drake that's going to be spawning in the next 5 seconds.
And let's look at that again. Triple not getting the Shurima Shuffle as he wanted, but the fact that he is able to get away from this gives the rest of NXI, Dreams, and Kumo to find those flanks. NXI, sure, he's able to get dragged out a little bit farther, but look at how long he stays alive. With the Onslaught of Shadows, he's able to sort of reconvene with the rest of his team, and 100 Thieves is left to pick up the scraps. Kumo had come in, found that re-engagement, and from here, it's just easy pickings for Kumo and Tomo to find those members of 100 Thieves. With this reconnection, I will say that it was a little greedy for 100 Thieves to look for that re-engagement. I understand that they needed to have eyes on Baron, but you had to take the longer and the safer route to do so, and FlyQuest punishes them for choosing the latter.
A nice win for FlyQuest in that last team fight. As they make their presence felt on the map, there's still a lot of forward vision coming out from 100 Thieves towards this Baron area, and that's what we're going to start keeping our eyes on, because the next team fight, if it's clean enough, FlyQuest can, of course, outright win, but the bigger thing here is if we just get a team fight that goes FlyQuest's way slightly, the eyes are going to be on Baron, and they can take it quickly.
Of course. With that, Baron is started. Luger has the capability to just shred this Baron to pieces. Kenvi's here as well, but does FlyQuest have the capability to jump into this pit and cause a chaotic fight?
NXI, Onslaught of Shadows, waiting for it to go through. 2k health remains. NXI doesn't feel like he wants to go for it. Instead, goes after Poom, and he's not going to get a whole lot out of that. 100 Thieves are being in a situation where they can't exactly get to their base cleanly, but instead FlyQuest are going to go for the disengage and not continue the pursuit of 100 Thieves.
FlyQuest had just scrambled to choose which target they wanted to acquire, whether it is just to jump straight on top of Poom and at least get a member out of the game for just a moment before trying to address on the Baron, or they didn't choose the former either, where they could have just engaged onto the members of 100 Thieves in the Baron pit, where they would have had that full effect of the AoE teamfight composition that they have cooked up. But unfortunately, because of that scramble, because of that indecisiveness in that moment, 100 Thieves gets out with nothing to lose, and with this, they can swing back, get this side wave management under control, force a huge grouping into this mid lane, and then take everything away from the jungle of FlyQuest.
And it's working out so far. It was a 2k gold lead. FlyQuest able to win that last fight, but now it's 3k in favor of 100 Thieves, so you still do have that macro that's working out for 100 Thieves.
And it's the one thing that they've been thriving and sort of taking leads in, right? Because now with the 3,000 gold lead, with the macro choices, and with everyone being on the same page, that's what's been giving them this control once again into their side of the court. FlyQuest has found those picks. It's all been around triple, and when they weren't able to play around him and that indecisiveness came in due to that Baron fight, everyone fell apart. And because of the fact that they were not able to do that rallying around that pinpoint player, nothing came of it. And at this stage, one poor flank, one miscommunication from FlyQuest could just be the final nail in the coffin.
Luger getting a little feisty there as he goes on to Tomo, but Dreams is there to play interference. Scatter the Weak over the wall, only gets the stun onto Dreams, so Dreams absorbing a lot of damage like a good tank should, but 100 Thieves are posturing up towards the bot lane, towards the mid lane, putting the pressure on with this Baron-empowered push.
Kumo is very far out on the top side of the map. He does have TP to at least answer, and I do see one or two flank wards here in the backside near the river that he could try and find. He is looking for that reset now, actually, so he'll be addressing this in a much more front-to-back style with the rest of his teammates. With that, FlyQuest does lose their second-tier turret in the mid lane, but for a Baron power play, this is the best that FlyQuest could have asked for with that that consequence that came in during all of that macro play that 100 Thieves had set up so splendidly.
Yeah, they're still keeping their base alive. They have one more inner tower left, so it's not completely distraught for them just yet. And Kumo has been just constantly being a menace as he continues split pushing. The moment he's done split pushing the top side, goes to the bot and just tries to keep these waves shut out so 100 Thieves can't find their footing and constantly have to respond to them.
Dragon going to be spawning fairly shortly. Does have about a minute until that will happen. Again, it is soul point for 100 Thieves. FlyQuest does need to challenge this, and it is at least a pinpoint that they can rally behind, that they can say, you know what, we need to make sure that we can have some priority around this. We can see if we can force the tempo back into our favor, and it's not something that they need to make these weird choices. Poom is the one that is able to sort of throw a wrench into the gears of FlyQuest when they try and think of that, because he's just been finding these flanks left and right, and he's just been sort of driving a wedge into the rest of FlyQuest's defenses.
Yeah, you can see him right now. The front line of 100 Thieves. Poom just walking in and with no fear whatsoever, trying to find whatever engage FlyQuest will give him. But Dreams is looking to do the same thing with the headbutt pulverized onto Ryoma. Out comes the Emperor's Divide, almost onto the backline, but Ryoma's going to be able to stay alive as 100 Thieves are starting to mount the health bars of FlyQuest. Kumo fighting tooth and nail, gets a lot of damage in, gets a nice big juicy shield, but it's not going to be enough to deal with the damage coming out from Kenvi as he picks up the double kill, and that is the clean ace going through. 100 Thieves are marching on the base.
And a TP from Ryoma, a TP from Tenacity right onto the wave of the bottom side. And with this, that will be the parading team for 100 Thieves. They will be able to claim this inhibitor, rush down the Nexus. Their respawn timers are too long for FlyQuest to answer, and this will be 100 Thieves tying up the series between FlyQuest. 4 wins to 3 losses.
And a great display to come out of this squad as they pick up one more kill. Well played, finishing off that ace. 100 Thieves gonna be victorious. You gotta give it to them. FlyQuest looked like they were about to come back, and then 100 Thieves just steal it right back on towards them.
Yeah, and a lot of that tempo that FlyQuest was able to win back was through Triple's plays. Once it got to a stage where Triple wasn't the one dictating the team fights, wasn't the one finding these picks here or there onto Ryoma, everything FlyQuest was building for just completely fell apart. Poom was able to find these flanks, and that final fight that we had just seen was because Dreams decided to make the initiative, and everyone was clumped up together for Poom to gather around. And because of that, Triple didn't get that spacing. Tomo didn't get that spacing, and because of that congestion, you lose track of where Luger is in that fight, and he is just able to rip apart the backline of FlyQuest. And the answers or the questions that I had for 100 Thieves on how well Luger was going to mesh into the team have been answered, and it has been a confident and very sound yes for me, as Luger just a dominating performance in this game.
Yeah, and with that last fight, I really thought it was about to go FlyQuest's way. I mean, Dreams got the headbutt pulverize on Ryoma. He goes golden, and it's bought enough time for 100 Thieves to react. They reacted as a cohesive unit. They kept their composure throughout the entirety of that, and they're able to respond to the team fight when things look their grimmest and ultimately come out victorious. You have to give it to this whole squad for what they were able to bring when it looked like the chips were down for them.
Yeah, and it's just a huge shout out as well for Poom, showing that he has that leadership still in him to sort of carry the rest of the team, create that win condition, find those flanks where they are needed, and have that untraditional engagement for the rest of the team to follow up upon. And with that, it's just a well-played game from 100 Thieves to tie up and really close the gap between all of these other Academy squads. And it just continues to pressure down on how dire and important it is to grab these wins when everything is on the line for these Tier 1 teams.
These matches are getting more and more. It's just more and more to them. There's more and more on the line. It is wild when it comes to this ladder. We are going to take a moment to throw over a short break while we get set for an interview with one of our winners of 100 Thieves. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the LCS Academy Spring Split. 100 Thieves versus FlyQuest, a back and forth slugfest, but ultimately 100 Thieves victorious.
Yeah, and with that, it was something that we saw 100 Thieves work as a cohesive unit. We had a little bit of questions with how Luca was able to mesh into the team, but he's answered all of those very kindly and in a confident and astounding yes. So for me, it's something where I have nothing but high hopes for 100 Thieves as both a team pushing into the summer split, but also as the players as LCS prospects. But with that, we have to think of a LCS prospect ourselves with our post-game interview.
Yeah, we do have an interview to get to, and that's going to be Poom with our post-game interview brought to you by Verizon. How you doing, Poom? Nice to see you.
I'm doing super well. How are you doing?
Doing great, especially after watching that match. First of all, Luker, just coming in this week, how do you feel about playing with him bot lane and how well he's adjusting to the FlyQuest environment?
Well, I think he's doing really good. I mean, we only had like 3 days of scrim with Luger. He had like jet lag and stuff to get done before like we could get to start scrimming. So it's been 3 pretty good days of scrims. It's been really enjoyable.
Okay, so only 3 days of scrims. That is
Wow.
astounding,
Yeah.
especially with the performance that you guys have had for today. So with that, now that the team is like sort of finally together with Luga coming in today, how are your expectations with how the team was supposed to mesh coming into spring? And do you think all those expectations have been met just off of today's performance?
No, I still think there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, Luger is really good, right? But I don't think it's like I don't think it's just him being here is gonna fix everything that like we had issues with. So there's still like work to be done as a team, and Luger will not like be the one that fixes all of that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that, then it's something that you can sort of look inwards and look at yourself. Are there things specifically for you that you think you need to improve on heading into summer and maybe into the Tier 1 amateur competitions if you do have to run into those?
Of course. I think every player has something to improve on. I don't think people in the academy are perfect.
Yeah. Right. Well, we're all trying to be LCS prospects in the academy with that, and with that, I think it's something is appealing. I think the other question would be if you guys do end up in these tiebreakers going into potential Tier 1 tournaments, are there any teams or players that you've been looking at in these amateur scenes that you've been keeping an eye on?
No, not really.
Yeah, okay. Well, I like the respect. Sure, blind confidence is always great. Thank you, Boom, for coming on, and well played of today's match.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna throw it over a short break. He was a very interesting person to talk to, and a lot of confidence in that man. But we will be right back. We're gonna throw it over a short break. When we return, we'll get into the matchup of Golden Guardians versus TSM Academy. Be sure to stay tuned.